In 1972, you could walk into a showroom, hand over about $1,000, and ride home on a machine so violent that it had a nickname. People called it the Widowmaker. No traction control, no rider modes, no emissions gear, just a screaming two-stroke triple and whatever survival instincts you happened to show up with. The 1970s were the single greatest decade motorcycling has ever had. And almost none of these bikes could be sold new today, at least not in anything close to their original form. Not because we forgot how to build them, but because modern emissions, noise, and safety rules quietly made the originals impossible. Rewind to the start of the decade. In America, a brand new street bike didn't have to meet a single federal emissions standard until 1978. Leaded, high-octane fuel sat on every gas station forecourt. Noise limits were basically a polite suggestion. For a few short years, engineers could dream up the most unhinged machine imaginable and just sell it to the public. And right as that window swung open, a war kicked off. Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha were all racing to outmuscle each other, while Britain's old guard, Norton, Triumph, and BSA, watched their entire industry get bulldozed. That collision gave us these 7. We're not ranking these by who's best. We're walking through the decade, from the bike that started everything to the loudest goodbye in motorcycle history. Let's go. Number 1, the Honda CB750. This is patient zero, the bike that detonated the whole era. When Honda dropped the CB750 in 1969, nobody had seen anything like it. A smooth 736 cubic centimeter air-cooled 4-cylinder engine, an electric starter, and the first mass-production motorcycle to come with a hydraulic front disc brake. The motorcycle press needed a brand new word just to describe it, and that word was superbike. Honda basically invented the template that every Japanese manufacturer would copy for the next 20 years. Now here's where collectors completely lose it. Honda had no idea if the thing would even sell, so for the first 7,400 or so engines, they used a rougher gravity casting method instead of tooling up for full mass production. Collectors called these early bikes sandcast, even though that's technically the wrong name for it. Either way, they're now the holy grail. A pristine one is valued around $44,500, and a factory prototype sold at auction for roughly $218,000. Not bad for a bike Honda wasn't even sure anyone wanted. And just to prove the point, in 1970, a CB750-based racer ridden by Dick Mann won the Daytona 200. So why couldn't you sell this exact bike today? That simple, raw, air-cooled, carbureted 4 is the problem. A manufacturer could build something CB750 shaped right now, but only by loading it up with fuel injection, catalytic converters, and modern emissions gear. The stripped-down original would never clear the rules. The name itself soldiered on in various forms until 2008, but that raw, original-era formula had vanished long before then. And those gorgeous rough-cast cases, the moment real volume kicked in, that hand finishing got swapped for cold, efficient die casting and never came back. The CB750 was the future in 1969. Today it's a relic from a world that doesn't exist anymore. Honda thought they'd built the king. They had, for about 3 years. Number 2, the Kawasaki Z1 900. Because Kawasaki had been quietly working on their own 4-cylinder bike when the CB750 beat them to the punch. Instead of panicking, they went away, got angry, and came back swinging with something bigger. The Z1 launched in 1972 with a 903 cubic centimeter engine, twin overhead cams, and a claimed 82 horsepower, making it the most powerful Japanese 4-stroke you could buy. The code name during development was literally New York Steak. And no, I'm not making that up. To test it in secret, Kawasaki disguised 2 prototypes as Hondas and rode them coast to coast, from Los Angeles to Daytona, hoping nobody would notice. Then they took one to the Daytona Speedway and set a 24-hour record, covering 2,631 miles at an average of 109 miles an hour for 24 hours straight. In the US, it came in one gloriously 70s color combo of root beer and orange, which British riders took one look at and nicknamed the Jaffa. Around 85,000 were built between 1972 and 1975, and clean originals get snapped up fast today. And the reason it belongs on this list is the same thing that made it brilliant. It's a big, raw, air-cooled 900 with carburetors and a chassis built to 1960s standards. It vibrates. It has one front disc trying to haul down all that speed. It is gloriously, completely analog. No manufacturer could sell that engine in its original carbureted, air-cooled form today. They could build a modern tribute to it, sure, but the real thing, with all its rattly analog character intact, would never clear emissions and noise rules now. They'd be too busy explaining it to a regulator. But while Honda and Kawasaki were duking it out with four-strokes, there was a different kind of machine prowling the same roads. Louder, lighter, and genuinely trying to kill you. Number 3. The Kawasaki H2 750 Mach 4, the bike from the very first sentence of this video, the Widowmaker. While everyone else chased smooth four-stroke power, Kawasaki bet everything on the two-stroke, and they built the most aggressive street bike money could buy. A 748 cubic centimeters two-stroke triple, 74 horsepower, and a standing quarter mile in a flat 12 seconds. Straight off the showroom floor in 1972, this was the fastest accelerating production bike on the planet. The problem was everything else. Short wheelbase, a frame that flexed like a wet noodle, most of the weight sitting over the back wheel, and a power band that went from nothing to absolutely everything the instant you cracked the throttle. Riders nicknamed it the Widowmaker, and the Italians went a step further and called it the Flying Coffin. That's not a typo, by the way. That was basically the lived experience. Kawasaki built around 47,600 of these 750 triples, so it's not exactly rare, but a clean one today runs you $20,000 to $25,000, and the best examples sail past $50,000. Now this is the bike the entire video is named after, so here's the big one. A 748 cubic centimeters two-stroke street bike cannot meet modern emissions rules. Full stop. Two strokes burn oil along with the fuel and pump out far more pollution than a four-stroke ever could. And this wasn't even a surprise. Back in 1975, the EPA basically said out loud that almost any emission standard would wipe two-stroke street bikes off the market. And the only real question was when. They were right. That same year, an H2 won a production class race at an AMA national event. It was the last time a two-stroke ever did. The clock the EPA started never stopped ticking. But not every two-stroke was trying to murder you. Number 4. The Suzuki GT750, better known as the Water Buffalo. Suzuki looked at the two-stroke madness and made a completely different call. Instead of building a Widowmaker, they built a two-stroke you could actually live with. The GT750 was the first mass-production Japanese motorcycle with a liquid-cooled engine, which was almost unheard of in 1971. A 738 cubic centimeter water-cooled two-stroke triple, smooth, torquey, and refined, designed for riders who wanted to do real miles, not just terrify themselves into an early grave. It picked up nicknames everywhere it went. Water Buffalo in America, the Kettle in Britain, and the Water Bottle in Australia, all of them gently mocking the radiator and the sheer bulk of the thing. By 1973, it had twin front disc brakes when almost nobody else offered them. And the guy who designed it, Etsuo Yokuchi, went on to create one of Suzuki's most legendary Grand Prix racers. Roughly 71,000 were built, and good ones today sit anywhere from $4,000 to $12,000, which honestly still feels like a bargain. So why can't Suzuki just build a modern one? Same wall as the Widowmaker. It's a big two-stroke, and big two-strokes are extinct on the street. Suzuki themselves killed it in 1977, replacing it with the four-stroke GS750, precisely because tightening emissions rules and a thirsty fuel habit had turned the two-stroke into a dead end. A liquid-cooled, big-bore two-stroke street triple existed for one brief moment in history, and the law slammed that door shut for good. Quick one before we keep rolling. If you're enjoying this trip back to when motorcycles were gloriously unhinged, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. We cover stuff like this every single week. All right, number 5. This is where we leave Japanese muscle behind and things get seriously exotic. Number 5. The 1974 Ducati 750 Supersport, the legendary green frame. In 1972, almost nobody took Ducati seriously as a superbike brand. Then they showed up at the Imola 200, a brutal Italian endurance race, and finished first and second against the best in the world. Paul Smart, a last-minute substitute rider, broke the lap record in practice and then won the whole thing. Overnight, Ducati had to build a road version, and what they made was about as close to a pure race bike as a regular human could legally buy. The green frame ran a 748 cubic centimeter L twin with Ducati's signature desmodromic valves, a system most of the industry considered far too complicated to bother with. It had a fiberglass fuel tank with a clear strip so you could literally watch your gas sloshing around, unfiltered 40mm Dell'Orto racing carburetors lifted straight off the Imola bikes, and exhaust pipes loud enough to set off car alarms 2 streets over. Ducati built just 401 of them. That's it. And the price reflects exactly that. One sold in 2025 for $198,000, and the all-time record sits around $250,000. That's the kind of number that makes accountants cry. So why will there never be another? The people who restore these put it best. A bike like this simply couldn't be built and sold today, and it's frankly a small miracle it was even legal back in the 1970s. A fiberglass gas tank, open racing carbs, deafening pipes, and a temperamental engine that needs constant fiddling. Every single one of those things would trip a modern safety, emissions, or noise rule on its own. And this exact green frame formula barely lasted a year. Ducati kept building the bevel drive Desmo engine for over a decade after this, all the way to 1986, but the stripped-out race bike for the road version you see here was a one-year-only moment that never came back. If the Ducati was exotic, this next one was just pure, magnificent excess. Number 6, the Honda CBX 1000. By 1978, Honda apparently decided that 4 cylinders were for cowards, so they built a 6. A 1,047 cubic centimeters AIR-cooled inline 6, 24 valves, twin overhead cams, and 105 horsepower. All of it inspired by the screaming 6-cylinder Grand Prix bikes Honda raced in the 1960s. In fact, the man who designed the CBX engine, Shoichiro Irimajiri, was the same engineer behind those legendary racers. Now, the Italians at Benelli technically beat Honda to the first ever 6-cylinder production bike a few years earlier. But nobody, and I mean nobody, built a 6 like this. It was the first production bike one major magazine had ever clocked past 130 miles per hour. And despite having 6 cylinders sticking out the sides, it was only about 2 inches wider than the 4-cylinder CB750. But the real magic was the sound. Feeding that engine took 6 separate carburetors, and when you opened them all up, the CBX howled like a turbine spooling up. Reviewers ran clean out of compliments. One magazine flat out said it was the finest motorcycle engine that had ever reached a public road. Solid examples today go for $10,000 to $20,000, with the cleanest, lowest mileage bikes pushing closer to $30,000. So why is it impossible now? Just count the carburetors. 6 of them, 6 float bowls, 6 throats, all needing to breathe and burn fuel in perfect sync, with no injection and no catalytic converters anywhere. Exactly as Honda built it, that engine would never pass a modern emissions test. Honda could engineer a clean, modern 6 that complies, sure. But a raw, AIR-cooled, 24-valve, 6-carb monster like this one? No accountant on earth would sign off on building it for the street today. Air-cooled engines are already being quietly killed off because they cannot control their temperatures cleanly enough for current rules. A 6-carb, AIR-cooled 6 is a museum piece by design now. Which brings us to the loudest goodbye in this entire video. Number 7, the Laverda Jota. If Ducati is the Ferrari of motorcycles, then Laverda was the Lamborghini. Loud, brutal, slightly unreasonable, and absolutely glorious. The Jota started life as a 981 cubic centimeters air-cooled triple, but the bike's British importer, the Slater brothers, weren't satisfied. They threw in hotter cams, higher compression, and a free-flowing exhaust, and turned it into a monster. The result, from 1976 all the way to 1981, was the fastest production motorcycle in the world. It was also the first production bike ever clocked past 140 miles an hour. The name is a great little detail. A jota is a Spanish folk dance in triple time, a sly nod to the lumpy, uneven beat of that 3-cylinder engine. And lumpy is putting it kindly. The Jota idled so loudly and so violently that owners swear it shook the ground before it even moved. It dominated British production racing, winning the championship 4 separate times. Only around 7,100 Laverda triples of all types were ever built, and a really good Jota will cost you well into five figures today. And the reason it could never come back is almost poetically perfect. The Jota's entire personality was its noise. That deafening, uncatalyzed triple bark was the whole point of the bike. And by 1979, Laverda was already being forced to quiet the engine down for incoming European noise laws. To hush it, they swapped the inner crankshaft bearings from rollers to balls. And the result was a wave of bearing failures and warranty claims, bad enough that they switched the rollers back before the year was out. And modern noise rules are far stricter than anything Laverda was wrestling with back then. Today, a European motorcycle has to pass tiered drive by limits of roughly 77 to 82 decibels depending on its power, measured under a controlled test. The Jota, as built, never could. The very thing that made it magic is exactly what the rules now exist to silence. So there they are. 7 machines from the one decade when motorcycle engineers were handed a blank check and almost no rule book. The CB750 that invented the superbike, the Z1 that stole its crown, the Widowmaker that lived up to its name, the Water Buffalo, the $250,000 Ducati, the 6-cylinder Honda, and the deafening Laverda. Now go back to where we started. 1972, $1,000, and somebody riding home on a two-stroke nicknamed after grieving spouses. That entire world is gone now, and it isn't coming back. Not because we stopped caring, and not because the engineers forgot how. The bikes that defined this golden age, the raw two-strokes, the air-cooled monsters, the hand-built exotics with open pipes, they all run straight into a wall of emissions, noise and safety law the second anyone tries to sell them in their original form today. These machines weren't just fast or beautiful or slightly insane. They were the last of their kind. A final, glorious snapshot of an era the rulebook quietly closed forever. If you've got a favorite from this list, or one you think I robbed, drop it in the comments and tell me. And if you want more deep dives into the bikes that built motorcycling, you already know what to do. I'll catch you in the next one.